DJ Rod John, as well as special guest performances. Park admission is $6.50 for adults and $4 for kids under 14. That's Petticoat Peak Park, 1100 Whites Road in Pickering. Remember to bring your own chairs and portable barbecue. Alcohol is strictly prohibited.
Well, y'all listen to iLock Radio. My name is Steve Boyd of Parliament Funkadelic, and we want to thank iLock Radio for keeping the funk alive all over the world, worldwide.
Hey, what's going down, man? It's your boy Trix, a.k.a. the Human Jump Off, man. You locked into iLive Radio. They changed the way I listen to radio, man.
The internet's #1 on the World Wide Web. iLive Radio.
Hey, iLive listeners, thanks for tuning in. I'm Kat K. Mills, and this is More to Mom, the show that celebrates everything about her. With crying, whining, tantrums, and drama, our minis get plenty of airtime. More to Mom gives a voice to the women behind all those beautiful babies with a chance to chat about all the things that interest her, not just her kids. Today we're taking a look at a holistic approach to health with our special guest, the brilliant founder of Holistic Wellness, Samantha Gladish. Samantha, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And you have so much knowledge, so we're going to try and fit everything into this hour. There's a lot of topics we want to cover. We'll start with the most popular things. Now, thanks to online, you get to do a lot of programs for women all around the world. So you work with people everywhere. What do you find is one of the biggest complaints or struggles you hear from women?
Oh, there's a lot. So I work with women all over Canada and the US, and probably the biggest thing I hear is weight. I want to lose weight.
For sure. When does this not top the list for women, right? Everybody wants to lose, whether it's 10 pounds or they're looking to lose a large amount of weight. And how do you approach this when people come to you with the concern of weight loss?
So there's so many, everyone is so unique. So it's really about addressing the individual and really, diving into the areas that they're really struggling with. And so my approach is definitely a little bit unique in the sense that, it's not just about counting calories on your plate or how much exercise you're doing in your day, right? It goes really beyond that. And so there's a few little things that I like to incorporate, sort of, tips and tricks for a lot of my clients. And some of those things are, for example, like taking out snacking, because I find, a lot of women they're grazing a lot throughout the day, and they're just sort of eating, every 2 to 3 hours, and they're just constantly eating. And so they're just never giving their digestive system that opportunity to even just digest food. And even more than that, looking from a hormonal perspective, it's also about really supporting their hormones. And so if they are eating every 2 to 3 hours, what they typically end up doing is they spike their insulin levels more. And so the higher insulin you have, it's going to mismanage your blood sugar levels, and this is going to lead to even more cravings and more issues with weight loss. So taking the snacking out actually helps to manage those insulin levels and those blood sugar levels, so it can actually assist with weight loss so much better. Yeah.
And what about looking at the food? Because you're a holistic nutritionist, you obviously look at the sources of food, not just calories and things like that. But so how does that play a role, or what are you looking at in terms of food when you're trying to help somebody lose weight?
Yeah, good question. So, with so much craze these days around like superfoods and crazy fancy smoothies and all these elixirs, as much as I love all of that, I just simplify it for everybody. The foods that my clients are going to find on their meal plans, it's food that you're going to find in your grocery store. You don't have to go to 4 or 5 different health food stores and pick up all these, crazy superfood ingredients. It's keeping it simple. It's all about simplicity. So it's sticking to real whole foods. Ideally, organic if possible. I understand that sometimes that can be a little bit cost effective, so I don't expect everybody to do organic. But, if you can put an emphasis on organic to really manage those herbicides and pesticides, that would be great. And local is great too. And just eating a variety of vegetables. Because, I always say to my clients, I can guarantee, and I mean, this even sometimes goes to myself, and I'm sure this might be your case too, that, we're probably eating the same like 7 or 8 vegetables over and over and over again.
Especially when you're shopping with a toddler in the grocery store, you go to the things and can pick up fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. And there's like thousands of vegetables to choose from, thousands of fruits to choose from. Even when it comes to like different cuts of meat, like so many of us are accustomed to just eating like chicken breast or turkey breast, right? And it's like there's just so much more variety. So it's really about including variety in their diet and getting clients to really sort of expand their list of foods. And again, like it goes sometimes the same for me. It's looking at, okay, am I eating the same things over and over and over again? Like I got to expand this list here and really get creative and open to trying new things, right? So again, it's just simple whole foods, a variety of foods, and eating a lot of vegetables, a lot of good quality meats, and protein sources in general. So that might be fish, seafood, poultry, meat. Maybe that includes beans and legumes, and it varies for each person. So,
do you have people who come across your way that are maybe vegetarian or vegan and they're still looking to lose weight? So how do they deal
absolutely,
with that?
Yeah. Typically, so specifically with the program that I do, it can be a little difficult to do a fully vegan plan. I can do a vegetarian plan, and of course more like a paleo style plan, but strictly vegans can sometimes be a little bit more difficult. Now that just goes specifically with the weight loss program, my metabolic program that I do. And that program is phenomenal, gets great results. It's really individualized and customized, and we look through clients' blood work and design a meal plan based on the blood work. And so it's again, really customized. But with vegans, sometimes it can be a little bit complicated getting in, a variety of protein sources. And so that's where sometimes I just got to get a little bit more creative. That's all. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't want to leave our vegan friends out. Explain that process a little bit, the metabolic weight loss, for people who maybe aren't familiar with that. What's happening with that different than, just a regular weight loss program?
Sure. And so that's a really customized and individualized program. And that is the program that I use with a lot of my clients. And that gets incredible results. And the reason that is again, because it is a customized program. It's not just about, nowadays you can go online and just download some really quick meal plan for free. And it's not really customized to your hormonal levels and nutrient deficiencies that might be going on in your body or inflammation. So with the metabolic program, we basically, there's about 35 different labs that we test. And some of these will include things like vitamin D levels, because your vitamin D is so essential in regulating hormones and immunity. And so we look at, things like that, vitamin D, we look at cholesterol and inflammation that might be happening in the body. And so we take all the results from these labs and then we develop a meal plan. So for example, if someone's blood results come back and there is a lot of inflammation going on, we're going to make sure that we take out those inflammatory foods so that we can help manage that inflammation. Or if maybe there's issues going on with liver detoxification and someone might need more support with liver detoxification, we're going to make sure that we include certain foods and dark leafy bitter greens that actually support liver detoxification. So again, we look at that blood work, design a really customized meal plan and program to assist, to sort of support what's going on in the blood work, and then we go from there. And incorporated in that is going back to what I mentioned about taking out the snacking, having a variety of just simple whole foods. Water is a big part of that program. Even aside from weight loss, water is super important. You got to make sure you're hydrated and drinking and getting in a lot of water. And then we coach together for 3, 4, 5 months, and it's really, really effective, great program.
So a lot of people might not even be aware of the things that are happening to their body, the things they're feeling. You're talking about inflammation or liver detoxification,
Right.
All of these things people aren't necessarily aware of until someone like you, a professional, points out these things from blood work and tests and things.
Right.
What kinds of things would people be experiencing to say, oh, maybe there's an issue with inflammation or the liver and things like that?
Yeah.
What could they see happening?
Right, that's a great question. So especially with liver detoxification, our liver is our main detoxifying organ. And so, from all the environmental toxins that we really can't avoid, there's so many of them we just can't avoid, toxins in our beauty care products and makeup products, household cleaning products, toxins and chemicals that are in our water supply, that's in our food. This all has to get processed through the liver. And so the liver, you obviously want to make sure that since it's dealing with this impact of toxins and chemicals on a daily basis, we really want to make sure that we can support the liver optimally to effectively eliminate those toxins, right? And so things that someone might experience are skin issues, eczema, psoriasis, acne, definitely hormonal issues, specifically, like with a woman's cycle, there might be things going on because your liver, aside from detoxifying those chemicals, it also metabolizes your hormones. And so if you have a lot of hormonal issues going on, it would be a good idea to look at the liver and see like, okay, what can I do here to assist, and help my liver? So again, there might be issues with a woman's cycle, maybe estrogen dominance, where estrogen might be a little bit too high in the system. There could be gut issues going on, all kinds of things. So definitely, the liver is one of the areas, even with my clients, is one of the areas that I always focus on because it's such an important organ, and we want to make sure we're eliminating those chemicals effectively since we are in contact with them, on a daily basis.
And inflammation is obviously a big issue that tops the list. But again, a lot of people don't realize what's happening with inflammation and why that's causing a lot of problems or even diseases and things like that. So
right.
How can they start to identify things that might be caused by inflammation, and what would that be caused by in terms of foods or anything they're doing?
Yeah, and so that's so complex because again, everyone is so individual, so different things can obviously affect people differently. But I think the simple things that people can start looking at is, for example, there's so many people that I hear saying how I have arthritis. Right. That's that. And I feel like when we hear about inflammation, that's sort of like where our head goes. It's like arthritis, right? Anything that ends in itis, bursitis, arthritis, diverticulitis, all of that is an inflammatory condition, right? And that can be caused by numerous things. It could be due to a food intolerance that someone might have and might not be aware of, right? Gluten is a really big one that can cause a lot of inflammatory issues, especially within the gut. And so people, react to that. Dairy sometimes can be another one that isn't tolerated very well. And so people may react to that. Sugar is a really big one. And so sugar, if there's anything you're going to want to try and eliminate and get out of your diet, sugar would be the number one thing I would say to start with. And it could also just be things like mineral deficiencies or lack of things like essential fatty acids, which are your fish oils, because those actually have anti-inflammatory compounds in them that help to lubricate your joints and support that inflammatory process in the body, right? So it can be a number of things. Especially with something like arthritis, I always hear this with my parents, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
As they start to age and it's I'm starting to get some arthritis in my knee or my arm.
This absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's when it's okay, that's the sign where now something has caused that to happen.
Right.
So instead of doing this Band-Aid approach of, taking an anti-inflammatory or popping some Advil or Tylenol just to manage that pain for the day, we have to look at it from a deeper perspective. It's something caused that arthritis to happen in the first place. So let's take a look at your lifestyle.
Is it the biscotti every day?
Yeah, with your father, right?
Probably true, yeah.
Yeah, so it's things like that. So you want to look deeper and okay, let's look at the stress levels. Let's look at your water intake. Let's look at the food that you're eating. Let's look at chemicals in your environment. Let's really dive in to see what it might be that's actually aggravating your system and causing that arthritis to happen in the first place. Because if you don't manage that, it's going to just start expanding, and it's going to go to other areas in the body and become a bigger, complicated issue.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about a weight loss program, obviously it needs to be customized per person and based on their own situation.
Yes.
But what could be some of the top things that you always include in a program for somebody, whether it's fish oil or something else? What are top essential things that you look for?
Yeah, so in terms of supplements, the core supplements are things like probiotics, really essential because those probiotics help to support the good bacteria in our gut. And our gut is really like our second brain. And so we really want to support it by not just eating really good quality foods, but giving it that good bacteria so it can thrive. And our immune system really essentially lives in our gut. So if you want a really good, healthy immune system, then it really actually starts with the gut. So probiotics are essential. And especially, you know, I have a lot of clients too that have digestive issues going on, and probiotics are going to help with that as well, especially if they're having like the gas and the bloating and whatnot, and probiotics for sure. And then things like fish oil. Fish oil is so important. You know, it's one of the only things I think that can actually lower a heart attack by 50%, and there's no pharmaceutical on the market that can even do that. So fish oil is really essential. It contains anti-inflammatory compounds that basically help to, it lubricates your skin internally, which is great. So it's going to give you that beautiful glowing skin, and strong nails and healthy hair. So from an aesthetic perspective, it's great to take. But it also fuels the brain. It's that healthy fat that is actually really fueling the brain. And it also lubricates your joints, so it will help with things like inflammation. So all around, it's just such a really important supplement that everyone can benefit from. And I mean, these supplements go for not just adults, but kids as well. Kids need that brain fuel, right? Even before they're even brought into this world, and while they're in, you know, mommy's tummy, they need that fish oil, that DHA, to actually support brain development. Right. And then probiotics for kids too, they can take them. And vitamin D, so essential. So I always test my clients for the vitamin D levels, so this way I can gauge where they're at, and then I can supplement and dose them appropriately. And every single client that I have tested, everyone comes back low.
On vitamin D?
Everyone, yeah.
What would be the base level that we're looking for vitamin D?
So typically your ranges, and it's such a wide range, is anywhere from 75 to 250, which is so crazy to me. So typically, you know, if I see clients, their lab results will come back at like 19. Or you know, 25, and they're really, really low, right? So then I can, you know, really bump up that dose for them. But even sometimes, you know, your labs might come back and you might be at like an 85, right? So you're within the range, but you're at the low end of the range, right? You don't want to be at the low end of the range. You want to be at the optimal end of the range. So even still at that point, that doesn't mean you shouldn't dose with it. You know, you should still use it. It just maybe your doses might be something different than someone who has like level 19 or 20, right? Yeah. So vitamin D is so essential. It actually helps to regulate the menstrual cycle, important for hormones, immunity, insulin levels, all kinds of things. So, and it's an anti-cancer vitamin too. So
no reason we should be missing out on vitamin D, and we're going to need it in a couple months.
And get it through the sun. I mean, we've been so lucky that the weather has been amazing. So get outside and... But
how much actually happens when you're outside? Like, we're talking about supplementing with vitamin D pretty often, especially if you live in a place like, you know, Canada, and it's you're not always able to get the sun, and the winter, the dreaded winter comes along. How much are you actually getting when you're outside for an afternoon versus taking a supplement that'll give you vitamin D?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't know like the exact dose, but if you can get outside without sunblock, crazy, right? Because we've been told that the sun is bad for us, and we should avoid it and lather up with the sunscreen. And of course, if you're going to be outside for an extended amount of time, yes, you know, use sunscreen. But otherwise, you know, you can be in the shade, you can wear a hat, you can wear long sleeves, but you really want to expose as much skin as possible for a good 15 to 20 minutes.
So you can absorb that vitamin D.
Exactly. So you can really get that vitamin D through the skin. Yeah.
So
and
when
if you
people
do that every day, especially in the summertime, you'll get sufficient amounts. It might actually sort of carry you through some of the winter months, but even then I would still sort of dose with it. And this is why you want to test as you go along. So like I'll dose my clients. Some of them are up to, you know, 5, 7, 8,000 IU of vitamin D a day, when oftentimes we're told to only take 1,000, right? And so I always test them. I'll get them on that amount for maybe, you know, 3 months, and then we'll retest, see where their levels are at. Yeah, and so then you just kind of test, and then you know where how to gauge that.
What kind of feedback do you hear from them in terms of how they feel once you've changed these things and once they've implemented them into their program?
Yeah, I mean, it varies for everyone. And so like immunity is a big one, not getting sick as often. And there's so many things that happen at like a cellular level. So you don't even really physically know, but it, underneath things are happening and going on.
Right.
I think mostly like energy, immunity is probably the biggest thing I hear. And even like bone health, that's a big one too, because vitamin D actually helps support the bones and it brings calcium into the bone.
Right.
So, better bone density is another one too.
So what kind of progress would somebody see when they're doing the weight loss? And obviously it varies for everybody, but if you're looking at a healthy program for somebody, some people get frustrated when they've been doing a program and they haven't lost 20 pounds right away or something like that. But what would you guide that person to say, when they're looking at their results?
So don't always bank on the scale because the scale, our weight fluctuates day by day, sometimes like hour by hour, right? You can wake up in the morning and weigh yourself and then, later on after you eat and have had some water or worked out and you're sweating or whatever, you might step on the scale and be 3 pounds heavier, right? There's so many like sodium fluctuations, water fluctuations that are happening. So the scale for my clients, I always tell them, weigh yourself once a week. Same time, once a week. And more than that, it's about like doing your measurements and checking your inches because that's really going to tell you a lot more than anything. And on the flip side of that, sometimes because I want my clients to understand that weight can fluctuate so much, what I might have some of my clients do is I'll tell them, okay, I want you to weigh yourself twice a day, every single day for 2 weeks and mark it down and look at all the fluctuations that happened within that 2 week time periods, just so that you can get an understanding of the fact that you didn't gain 3 pounds of fat in a matter of 2 hours. That's not what happened. Right. So sometimes I just have clients do that just so that, mentally it helps them to really see like, okay, like I'm not crazy here.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, there's different ways to really do it, but ideally I don't want people to be so obsessed with like the scale weight. And in terms of weight loss, like it fluctuates, it's different for everybody, and I tell my clients if you can give 100% commitment to your program, you're going to get 100% results.
Right.
But I understand, like, I don't expect that. I understand that your schedule is crazy, or you might have kids, or you might be traveling, right? So you have to do the best that you can do. And it's really, how badly do you really, really, really want it? And so I have clients who have dropped, 20 pounds in 4 to 6 weeks. I have one amazing client who she's currently down 60 pounds. She's off of all her diabetic medication, no more blood pressure medication. In fact, her doctor has no longer proclaimed her as a diabetic.
Oh, wonderful.
Which is amazing. Yeah. And again, because this is all about managing insulin levels, hormonal levels. And so this is why I have a lot of diabetics that, come to see me, or women who have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which again, like, deep hormonal issues going on there. So, again, like in terms of how much weight someone will lose, like that's going to vary for each person. And, typically it can just be based on their level of commitment. Right. And how, and they can't always look at someone else and say, so-and-so lost 20 pounds in 4 weeks. So how come that's not happening to me? Right. It's different for everybody.
Right. And probably social media can help or not help in that situation.
Yes.
It's a blessing and a curse
at the same time.
At the same time. Yeah.
It's so true.
But beyond weight loss, so a lot of women will have issues with the weight loss or carrying extra weight because of hormones and things like that. And you often have women coming to you with problems about their cycle and things. So let's talk a little bit about what's the problem with periods. Why are you, you're a self-proclaimed period fixer-upper.
Yep.
What is going on? And like, why are so many women having an issue with that?
Yes. So again, something that varies for each woman because we're all so individual, but common things are estrogen dominance. So basically, this is basically where we have excess estrogen in our system, and this can be caused by endocrine disruptors, chemicals that are in are in our environment. So plastics, for example, have a lot of, the BPA, and that is an endocrine disruptor. So that can increase estrogen in the body. Different chemicals and whatnot in body care and beauty care products, that can increase estrogen. Antibiotics and hormones in the food that we're eating, especially animal products, so dairy or meat or anything like that, can have excess estrogen, and then we end up eating that, right? So there's a lot of things that can affect estrogen dominance. And so that might lead to a woman having a heavier flow and really like a complicated cycle, more cramping, more headaches, more things like endometriosis or fibroids might happen because of estrogen dominance. So again, it can vary for each woman. There's typically a lot of things going on with, like I have a lot of women that come to me with PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So they might have higher amounts of testosterone, and so they may not be ovulating at regular times, and their cycles might be every 30 days, 40 days, 55 days, and then 20 days, like it's all over the map, right? So again, it's so different for so many women, and I think that for everyone, it just comes back to the basics of like, let's look at your diet and like look at where there might be deficiencies going on. Let's also look at, the supplements that you might be taking and, what you might need to support, the hormones, liver detoxification. Are there excess chemicals in your environment? And then even beyond that, like stress. Mm-hmm. Stress is the biggest thing. Mm-hmm. Stress can completely throw off a woman's cycle because you're increasing cortisol levels. And then, this can kind of lead into things like infertility. I have a lot of women that come to see me who have issues with fertility, and they have, there could be anything going on there with their cycle, whether they're not ovulating, or it could be a weight issue, it could be inflammation, it could be PCOS, it could be so many things that are, affecting fertility levels. And especially with stress and fertility, if you have higher amounts of cortisol going on, you are going to have lower amounts of progesterone. And progesterone is, progestation. It's that pregnancy hormone, mm-hmm. right? And so managing stress is such an important thing. And I would even say sometimes, like some of my clients, weight loss or hormonal or fertility, whatever it might be, I always want to look at their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. It's not just the food on their plate. It's not just the exercise that they're doing. It's looking at their lifestyle, and it's looking at those stress levels. Some women I have who are like over exercising and just, they're overdoing everything in their lives, that type A personality, right. And that person needs to slow down. And that's really hard for someone like that to do, right? Like I'm typically a type A, and I just want to go, 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 go. Mm-hmm. And then I get sick. And then it's like, okay, now it's time to slow down. Right. But it's like, no, I need to address that before that actually happens and be more conscious of that happening. Right. And so it's the same thing with my clients, right? It's like, okay, you're overdoing everything, and what your body actually needs is just like quiet time. Just slow it all down. Right. Like, don't work out, just take a break from the gym, right? So yeah.
So how do you help those clients kind of deal with that? Like if stress levels is such a huge part of it, are there things you can implement, or some sort of lifestyle program you can teach them to deal with it?
I mean, it's so tough because with stress, it's how we react to it, and everyone reacts to stress differently, right? So some people are getting super worked up over being stuck in traffic every day, right? And it's like helping this person really to understand, is that really important? Like how can you actually enjoy this process of being stuck in traffic? If you're going to do it every single day because you got to do that to get to work, and this is part of your life, like how can we find ways to actually make this enjoyable? Putting on your favorite CD or whatever it might be, listening to your favorite radio station, or listening to a great podcast that's actually going to educate you on, maybe a health topic or something, right? Like, let's find ways to make that more enjoyable, and actually look at like the silliness of you're reacting to something that's so out of your control, right? And if you actually hate it that much, then just change it. Right. Then just find a different route. Right. Carpool or take the train or the bus, or like just change it. So we really love to complain about things when they're so easily fixable.
Right.
And sleep is a big one, because your sleep is going to support your stress, and oftentimes if you're stressed, you may not be sleeping very well.
Right.
So that's a really important area to look at, and look at someone's sleep habits. Are they on their computer or on their phone while they're lying in bed?
Right.
If that's the case, that's got to stop.
Right.
Right. That light that comes off of the screen is actually going to affect how they produce melatonin and how effectively they sleep. So we want to minimize that. Are they eating and then going straight into bed, right? Are they, are all the lights turned on really, really bright in the house, in the evening just before bed? It's also going to affect melatonin levels. So it's like, let's create this sleep environment where we're supporting the melatonin, we're creating this like downtime for you in the evening, dim the lights, maybe you take a bath, maybe you read a book and you're not watching TV, put the computer and the phone away at a certain time, which is what I do for myself. I always make sure it's shut down at a certain time and I just don't touch it for the rest of the night. So again, it's just like creating these new and healthy habits. That's really all it is. You've been able to create habits before in the past, so we know it's doable. So let's just, find ways that we can implement new ones.
So you've managed to help women turn things around. Like, you've had women approach you with infertility issues and, problems with their period and things like that. And a lot of times the first reaction is to go to the doctor, get medication.
Right.
And now you're stuck on a medication or something for years, which can cause other damages.
Absolutely.
So what kind of results have you seen women have when they're looking at alternative ways, like the types of things that you're providing or suggesting?
Tons of results have, come from that. And so, and it's not to, sort of like nag on any pharmaceuticals or anything like that. I think that in specific cases, it might be necessary to use something, but to be on that long term, I think is so ridiculous, because how can anybody know where your life is going to be at or where your health is going to be at in 6 months, a year, or 2 years from now? Looking at my diabetic client, like, she was on diabetic medication for, 15 plus years. And to be told that you have to take this for the rest of your life is crazy, because she went ahead and lost 60 pounds, completely balanced out her hormones and managed high blood pressure, everything, doesn't need the medication anymore, right? So, again, I think like in certain situations, you may need that, but know that there are always alternatives. Like, especially clients who come to me, like I had this client actually email me the other day and was saying how she's so fed up with her weight issues and she's just thinking of doing gastric bypass. And, I reached out and I said, this isn't the answer. And so, is gastric bypass actually going to solve your eating issues? Are they is that procedure addressing the food that you're actually eating, your mentality around food? Is it addressing how you're moving and exercising your body? No. Right? So let's start there first, before ever thinking about spending crazy amounts of money on some procedure that's not even addressing the core of what the issue is. Yeah.
So you'd suggest the clients, like, let's go through a checklist first of natural things we can do, looking at lifestyle before we get into all these other avenues and things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so with lifestyle, a big problem and something that you've addressed also is the beauty care products, healthcare products, things like that.
Yes.
Of course, we're all using all of these products, shampoos, conditioners, lotions, makeup, deodorants.
I know.
Everything, every day. But it can start to get very tricky once you're learning about ingredients and you're learning about information. I can barely walk in a store and pick up a product anymore without a stress, of saying, what's in this? I can't just use this anymore because I know information now. And once you know that, it can be stressful because you want to find alternatives that are healthy for you and safe for you. So what are some of the big concerns we're looking at when we're looking at beauty products or healthcare products?
Yeah, so great question. And this is so important because I think it's one of those areas we typically don't think about. Like, we think about in terms of balancing our hormones, we will think about, okay, the food that we're eating or the supplements or the stress, but we don't think about, oh, wait a minute, my makeup and my beauty care products could actually be causing my issues, right? So we really want to take this like all around approach to everything, that we're touching and coming in contact with, that we use every day. So especially with like makeup and beauty care, and body care products in general. You know, things like SLS and SLES, like the sulfates, those foaming agents that you find in so many things. We want to be wary of that. You know, parabens are in so many products and hair care products, fluoride in our toothpastes, fragrance and perfume. You might read on a lot of labels. That's not a real fragrance. That's an artificially made fragrance. Even things like FD&C color and pigments, which is crazy to me. You're using these fake coloring ingredients just to make something look like the color rose or something like that, right? And you know, it's interesting. I can't remember the name of the brand, but there's that one prenatal that you can find at most drugstores, and it's a very generic brand. It has FD&C color pigments in it, just so that the prenatal vitamin can look like pink or something, which is crazy to me. Right.
You should be using all natural.
Yeah. And so these, again, all are like endocrine disruptors. They're disrupting the hormonal system. They're having a negative impact on the liver and detoxification. You know, your body has to process that. So think about what you're putting on in a day. Like, you know, you wake up, you might use the shampoo, you might use the conditioner, you might use other hair products, and then you're brushing your teeth, and then you're putting on mascara and eyeliner and blush and lipstick, which has tons of lead in it. And then you're using, you know, body cream, which also, you know, has tons of ingredients in there. And then, you know, what else? Maybe you're using hand cream, like hairspray. And then later in the day, you might be reapplying the lipstick. It's, you know, 20 plus potential products that you're using in a day, more than once a day, which are loaded with numerous chemicals. So I don't expect people to go home and like ditch, you know, all of their products overnight and like totally do a revamp, although I think that would be really amazing, but I don't expect that. So it's like, let's just pick where we can start, you know, like just start with one thing. Like maybe it's the shampoo and conditioner, right? Maybe it is the lipstick that you're wearing every single day, because there are amazing alternatives out there, tons of organic companies. And I just really want people to, you know, start picking up these products, reading the labels. If you can't pronounce half of the stuff on there, that might be a sign that you really don't want to use it or shouldn't be putting it on your body. And you know, your skin is your largest organ. So you're putting this stuff onto your skin, it's absorbing into the skin, and it's got to get detoxed and processed through the liver and through the body. So
is that a great place to start? Is just like lotion, because you're consuming.
That's a good place.
You're absorbing so much of that.
For sure. Yeah. And you're using it, you know, all over your arms and your legs, everywhere, right? So, and again, look for the SLS and the parabens and the sulfates and the color pigments and the perfume, urea, you know, tons of stuff.
These are the things you want to stay away from.
Yes.
So
what no-nos.
The no-nos. What could be some great alternatives for people if they're looking for new products, new things to use, because they're aware of these things? Do you have some favorite set? Yeah. Favorite set.
Absolutely. So Living Libations, I love them, and you can go on their website, and everything there is, you know, handmade and beautiful and nothing synthetic. Even just heading out to your local health food store or like a Whole Foods, Green Beaver is a great company. Giovanni is a great company. In terms of makeup, there's, I think, Zui, Z-U-I-I, I think that's how you pronounce it. You know, Mineral Fusion might be a good option. Beauty Counter is another great company that I love, and you can order their products online, and they have makeup and body care and facial products and hair care and all kinds of stuff. And just going back, because I know we were talking about sunscreen. Green Beaver has some really great sunscreen. Goddess Garden as well. There's a really great company that I just found in the US, and they're called Manda, M-A-N-D-A, and they have a sun paste, and it's really cool, and you actually kind of apply it on your face. I always say it's like your warrior paint. So it might be kind of cool, like for kids, like you're putting on this like warrior paint on those areas that are going to get burnt on your face. So there's like tons of companies out there. You just got to go out to these health food stores, you know, look around, do your research. I'm thinking of some other ones right now, like Andalou, Pacifica, Hugo Naturals is really great. They've got really beautiful soaps and stuff. So there's always, know that whatever it is you're using that might be like a generic drugstore brand, know that there is an alternative. Like, it is absolutely out there. You just have to do that extra little bit of research and, you know, probably head out to more like a specialty store or health food store to get it.
Right. And even with deodorants, a lot of people ask about
yes.
deodorant. What do they do with that? They don't want to use the chemicals, but they obviously don't want to stink and sweat.
Yes.
So what, is there a solution for them there? Or?
This is so great. I love that you brought this up because I hear this one all the time.
Bring it up because it's summer, obviously.
Yes. So here's the thing. If you're going to switch to a natural deodorant, well, first of all, if you're using an antiperspirant and it has the aluminum in it, the aluminum, you know, under your armpits is your lymph nodes. And so that aluminum is going to get absorbed into the lymph nodes, and it's also going to start going into the breast tissue. So many women who have breast cancer, and they've done this, you know, huge study on women who have had breast cancer, and they test, you know, the tissue, it has high amounts of aluminum in there. So we really want to avoid the aluminum and those antiperspirants. And so if you make that switch to a natural deodorant that obviously has no aluminum, yes, you're going to start sweating more, and yes, you are going to stink more. And here's why.
Is this a solution?
Right? I know, it doesn't sound like one. So once you've stopped using that aluminum, you actually are letting your armpits breathe. They're finally breathing for the first time instead of blocking them, right? And so that's a good thing. You want your armpits to actually breathe. You're supposed to sweat. We're meant to sweat. And so initially when you make that transition, yes, you're going to stink. Yes, you're going to sweat more, but it will, I would say it's a good 2 to 3, maybe 4-week process before that kind of dies down a little bit. So like that smell, it will go away. And typically the smell can be worse if there's a lot of detoxification issues going on. Like,
Right.
Right.
Things that need to get out. Yeah.
Exactly. So now that you're finally letting it out and sweating, yeah, it's you're gonna smell. So it's kind of like
yeah, you're gonna smell.
It's gonna happen. So you kind of have to like get over that hump,
right,
and just let that process happen. I mean, I went through it myself, and now I use natural deodorants, and I make my own at home as well, which are really easy to make.
You make your own deodorant.
I do, and there's a lot of great do-it-yourself recipes that people can find over on my site at holisticwellness.ca. And so, I really encourage people to make that transition. I know it's not a really super fun one, but once they get over that hump, it will be great. And I actually wanted to mention too, I remember this lady, a friend of mine just recently said to me that for the first time in years, she went to the gym the other day and she actually sweat. And that's because she started using this natural deodorant.
Right.
And she said for the first time, I actually sweat at the gym. Like
right.
My shirt was soaked. And I was like, that's a good thing. Sweating is part of the detoxification process. That's right. How you get toxins out of your body. So don't think it's a bad thing.
So maybe it's just not the thing that you start in the summer when it's
right.
like brutally hot out. Maybe that's a good
in the
fall
winter
program or winter program for people to take a look at. Maybe they can start then if they're concerned about that stuff.
Right.
So you do a lot of your do-it-yourself recipes, so you have the deodorant, and I know you do a lot of other things.
Yes.
And I know dental health is one of your passions.
Love it.
You've made your own toothpaste.
Mm-hmm.
So talk a little bit about that. First of all, why are you so passionate about dental health, and how did you come up with your own toothpaste, and what's it doing for people?
For sure. So this all started about, I would say now, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And for the first time ever, I got my first cavity for the first time, which was crazy. So I went, for a regular checkup, and the hygienist was cleaning my teeth, and she said, "Oh, it looks like you have a cavity developing." And I thought, "Oh my God, this is crazy. Like, how could this happen? I've never had one my whole life." So being the holistic nutritionist and wanting to do everything natural, I rushed home and started to do tons of research on holistic self-dentistry. And so I started to play around with different essential oils and different ingredients and making my own toothpaste. And I kind of went through this whole dental routine of, really caring for my cavity and putting essential oils on it every day. I was doing tongue scraping because 50% of the bacteria in your mouth is actually on your tongue. And I was just really caring for my mouth. Like I made it like my life's mission
right.
to heal this cavity. And so when I went back for my checkup about 8 or so months later, and I asked the hygienist to check the cavity, she looked at me and she was like, no, you don't have a cavity. And she's like, in fact, your gums look beautiful. Your teeth are so white. Like, this is amazing. And I was like, what? And I made her like triple check the tooth, because I was like, no, you told me last time I had a cavity developing. She's like, no, like everything is great here. Keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, oh my God, I reversed my cavity. This is crazy. And so, a cavity is just an infection. It's just like getting an infection anywhere else you would on your body. If you cut your arm, for example, you're not going to take your open wound on your arm and like stick it into some dirty, muddy, murky water, right? You're going to care for it and it will heal over time. It's the same thing that happens with your cavity. If you provide it with the nutrients and the love and the care, you can actually reverse it. And so, and that really depends how far along it is, right?
Right.
And so,
because normally they would just fill a cavity.
Exactly.
And it's finished, right?
Yes. And they did not for mine because it wasn't as big, essentially. And she said, the next time you come in, we'll care for this. But by that time, it was fine. Right. And so that's how Salty Kisses toothpaste started.
Right.
And so that was the toothpaste that I was sort of making in my kitchen and kind of experimenting with, and yes, Salty Kisses was born out of that. And so it is basically an all natural toothpaste, and it contains a lot of coconut oil in there, which is really antibacterial, some really great essential oils in there, which are also antibacterial. It's got a little bit of xylitol in there to add a tiny bit of sweetness. It obviously has salt, hence the name, right. Salty Kisses. And it is salty. Salt is going to actually help with alkalizing the mouth. And it also has antibacterial properties as well. And then there's some MSM in there as well. And so MSM is a sulfur compound, and it's a regenerative compound. So it's really good for like regenerating the gum lines. So if anyone's suffering with like receding gum lines and things like that. So Salty Kisses toothpaste, and it's other product that comes with it too, well, sold separately, but it's the hippie floss oil. And so those were the oils that I was using every day on my tooth and on my cavity. And basically it's just a blend of antibacterial essential oils called hippie floss oil. And so, yeah, and you just, you can use the oil on your floss, and then you would floss as you regularly would. So it gets all those great antibacterial properties into the gum line. And the toothpaste, it obviously contains no fluoride. There's no foaming agents or anything like that in there. So it's just completely 100% natural. And it's edible. Most toothpaste you buy, it says do not swallow.
Which doesn't make sense. But
it's crazy to me. So it's completely edible and pretty much food-based for the most part. And
but it's still effective.
Really effective. And so I swear once you use it for the first time, you will feel like you walk out of the dentist chair. Like you'll feel like you just have this amazing polished, like cleaning.
I have used it, and I did feel like that.
Yes.
Excuse me. But explain a little bit for people who maybe don't understand. With a regular toothpaste, like why don't they want that?
Right. Good question. So most toothpastes do contain the fluoride, and I know we've been told to believe that fluoride is actually protective. And it's interesting to me because I kind of look at all of these people around me who are following this sort of generic dental advice of visiting your dentist twice a year, flossing twice a day, brushing, twice a day, using your mouthwash. And it's like most of the people who I know actually follow this advice have root canals, cavities, receding gum lines, and have all these issues. And I'm not doing any of that. And I don't have any issues, right? Or I have people who were almost heading down that path, but have completely sort of taken on the holistic self-dentistry route, and now, don't have any of those issues. And so with regular toothpaste, again, the fluoride, it can actually displace minerals in our body, which is obviously not a good thing because we need those minerals to support the bones in our teeth. Oftentimes they do contain things like SLS, which is those foaming agents, and that can actually create a breeding ground for a lot of bacteria. So we don't want that in our mouth. And even a lot of these natural toothpastes too, they contain glycerin. And so glycerin isn't a toxic ingredient by any means, but it can actually create this coating on your teeth. And so you have your teeth, and then you've got this coating of glycerin that goes on top, and it creates this barrier between your teeth and your saliva. And your saliva is what naturally cleanses the teeth. It's what actually supports the enamel. And so you don't want this barrier on there. You would have to rinse at least a good 30 to 40 times to get that glycerin off. So there's no glycerin in the Salty Kisses toothpaste. And so it's just a few ingredients that you really want to be careful of. A lot of the kids ones have those artificial colors and pigments in them. They have artificial sweeteners in them because they're, trying to make them sweet for kids. So you just want to be careful for things like that. And even beyond the toothpaste, it's also looking at your diet too. Like, are you getting in enough of those essential fatty acids, things from coconut oil and essential fatty, things like fish oil, grass-fed butter. That's all those good, healthy fats, and those fats support the fat-soluble vitamins, which actually support the bones. So it's this whole sort of thing we got to look at, not just
a holistic approach.
Yeah, it is. It is a holistic approach. It's not just eliminating the one thing and think that's going to solve it all.
Right.
Yeah, you kind of have to look at things a little bit deeper.
So there's so much for people to know, whether it's their beauty care products, their toothpaste, their deodorant, lotions, anything. And you started a new new program called Clean Beauty U.
Yes.
So what was your goal with that? You want to teach women all about products and ingredients and things?
Yes. So it's a 6-week online program called Clean Beauty U. And I basically launched it because I really wanted to educate women about skincare, body care, hair care, dental care, facial care, all of it, and how they can care for these things naturally and holistically. And even how they can save money by not visiting the dentist all the time because they can care for their teeth better. And so it was sort of this mission because I know there's all this focus on food and balancing your hormones with supplements. And it's like, okay, let's look beyond that now and really dive into the beauty care and the makeup and all that stuff that we're using. So it was a 6-week live online program, and it was amazing. We actually just finished our last week about a week ago, and so we'll be launching again in the fall. And each week is a different module. So the first week, we actually dived into liver and detoxification so that we can understand what is going on with our liver. How can we support detoxification and get these chemicals out of our body? And so there was, a lot of education on that. Plus, full protocols of me supplying women with what you can do, what supplements you can take, what food you actually need to eat. And then the second class, we dived into gut health. And gut health is so essential because oftentimes, if there are things going on in the gut, it can show up on the skin in terms of psoriasis or eczema. And, supporting that digestive process is just going to also support us having more healthier skin and whatnot. And so we really dived into gut health. And again, I provided, all the protocols and supplements and foods, things that, women can take. And then we went into facial care and hair care and body care and dental health. And so, yeah, it was a great 6-week program.
What was the kind of response you got from the women who were involved in it?
They loved it. They loved it. And they especially loved that it was a live program so that, they would join me. It was every Wednesday night at 7 for 6 weeks. And then they would join me live online so they can ask me questions as we're going through it, right? So just like we're communicating to each other, right? And so it was great. And many of them have, ditched their products and have gone for more clean beauty ones and ones that don't have, a lot of the synthetics and stuff in there. So they're making this transition. And more than that, they're cleaning up their diet and they're using the protocols that I've suggested. And, their skin is clearing up and they're supporting their hair loss, all kinds of things. So it's really great. The feedback has been amazing and I can't wait to do another round of it.
It sounds amazing, and I know I got to see some of it, and it is very interesting and very informative.
Awesome.
A good place that people like to start also is a detox program.
Yes.
So I know fall and spring sort of opens the doors where people are ready to reset.
Yes.
How can someone get started on a detox? Or first of all, why would they even want to do detox? How is that helping their body or their lifestyle?
Yeah, so it's just, going back to what we said earlier, just supporting the body and getting those toxins out and those chemicals. You're going to have more energy, clearer skin, That brain fog is going to go away. You may, shed some excess weight. You might manage that inflammation better, balance those hormones, better, healthier cycle, better moods. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can come off out of doing an effective detox program. And so there's a free 10-day detox that I do offer on my website, and people can head on over to holisticwellness.ca to get that ebook. And it's free, and it's just a simple whole foods 10-day detox. I've had over 2,000 women complete that program, and they've all had phenomenal results. So it's been amazing. And then, outside of that, they can obviously search around on my website at holisticwellness.ca, and there's tons of detox recipes. I mean, tons of recipes in general, because I love recipe development. And, they can also head on over to the shop page, and there's even more comprehensive detox programs there too.
So you talk about yours as a whole foods program.
Yes.
Just explain a little bit to us about that. Like when you say detox, a lot of times people might think, oh, I'm just drinking water for 8 days.
Right.
Or I'm drinking lemon juice or something like that.
Yes.
What is a healthy detox, an effective detox versus, a dangerous one or something like that?
So it's true. I mean, most people hear the word detox and they either think like deprivation, or they think they have to like run out to the health food store and spend like hundreds of dollars on these crazy like detox programs full of like herbs and cleansing agents and all this stuff, and then they spend like 3 days on the toilet, right? Which is not enjoyable. So, that can be one way to detox, sure, but even before investing in the detox supplements and the herbs and whatnot, it should all start with your food. And so when I say a whole foods detox, we detoxify every single day. So it's what you eat that is actually going to support that detoxification process. And if you're eating a lot of the same foods every single day, you actually are going to cause more issues in the system, because you can actually build up more intolerances to the foods you eat all the time. So variety is key. Getting in a variety of vegetables, especially those detoxifying fruits and vegetables. So things like lemons and limes. Your liver loves lemons and limes. Broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. They contain amazing detoxification nutrients that support the liver, and a lot of berries, because they have a lot of antioxidants in there as well. Blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, all of that goodness. And so those antioxidants support the liver as well. And so this is just simple whole foods based. Your first 3 days of the 10-day detox is simple smoothies with simple ingredients, throwing in some greens in there and some fruits that are gonna, be really nourishing, almost like making your smoothie like your multivitamin. Some really nourishing soups that are easy to make, that are loaded with nutrients as well. And then just eating simple, clean, whole foods, good amount of, protein, and getting your vegetables in there, drinking a lot of water and staying hydrated. So it's just, there's some simple recipes in that 10-day detox guide: smoothies, soups, salads, keeping it light, keeping it simple so you don't feel like overwhelmed. And then there's some supplement suggestions in there as well. And yeah.
Why do you find people are so, excuse me,
it's okay,
hungry for a change during fall or spring?
Yes.
Why is that coming around usually?
So typically, I think like when spring, and actually spring and fall are like the best detox periods. It's in traditional Chinese medicine, those are like sort of the clearing out periods where you just, like spring cleaning, right? It's just like letting go of what no longer serves you. And so I think as spring approaches and that warm weather is coming, it's just kind of this feeling of like, oh my God, like summer will be here soon, and then I'm going to show more skin, and you just kind of want to feel more vibrant and more energized. And so that can sometimes be, what encourages people to want to detox. And then especially in the fall too, I think especially with a lot of families, it's like their kids have gone back to school. So it's time to like focus on themselves and to like get things in order and to eat better. And so I think that's why sometimes they say, they want to do it in the fall.
Well, you have so much information, which is amazing for all the women out there. It's been such a great time chatting with you and going over a lot of these topics. I know people are going to have a lot more questions and concerns. So if they want to get more info, they visit holisticwellness.ca. and they can contact Samantha Gladish. You can also find her on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere on social media.
Yes, all over.
If you want some personal questions addressed and for consultations to see what kind of program you can do for yourself. We're approaching the noon hour, so it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you to all the iLive listeners. Thank you to iLive for hosting us. And a big thank you to Samantha Gladish for joining us today and sharing all of her knowledge. And tune in next month for another episode of More to Mom. I'm Kat K. Mills.
Thank you.
Best internet radio station around. iLife Radio, the new social network.
I said that I love you so, and I mean it so. From the bottom of my heart, I'm telling you to play. Baby, I saw that something in your eyes. Comes to no surprise that you turn me oh so giddy. What's up, people? This is Omar, and you're listening to iLive Radio, changing the way you listen to radio.
Rare groove, revival, slow jams, upfront, old school.
The best music around in